Hello and welcome to day 10 of the Not Alone Today Chronological Bible Reading Plan with Joseph and Anu. Today we are looking at Genesis chapters 28 to 30.
Chapter 28. So Isaac called for Jacob and blessed him, and said to him, "Don't marry one of these Canaanite girls. Instead, go at once to Paddan Aram, to the house of your grandfather Bethuel, and marry one of your cousins, your uncle Laban's daughters. God Almighty bless you and give you many children. May you become a great nation of many tribes. May God pass on to you and to your descendants the mighty blessings promised to Abraham. May you own this land where we are now foreigners, for God has given it to Abraham."
So Isaac sent Jacob away, and he went to Paddan Aram to visit his uncle Laban, his mother's brother, the son of Bethuel the Aramean.
Esau realized that his father despised the local girls, and that his father and mother had sent Jacob to Paddan Aram with his father's blessing to get a wife from there, and that they had strictly warned him against marrying a Canaanite girl, and that Jacob had agreed and left for Paddan Aram. So Esau went to his uncle Ishmael's family and married another wife from there, besides the wives he already had. Her name was Mahalath, the sister of Nebaioth, the daughter of Ishmael, Abraham's son.
So Jacob left Beersheba and journeyed toward Haran. That night, when he stopped to camp at sundown, he found a rock for a headrest and lay down to sleep, and dreamed that a staircase reached from earth to heaven, and he saw the angels of God going up and down upon it.
At the top of the stairs stood the Lord. "I am Jehovah," he said, "the God of Abraham and of your father Isaac. The ground you are lying on is yours. I will give it to you and to your descendants. For you will have descendants as many as dust. They will cover the land from east to west and from north to south. And all the nations of the earth will be blessed through you and your descendants. What's more, I am with you and will protect you wherever you go, and will bring you back safely to this land. I will be with you constantly until I have finished giving you all I am promising."
Then Jacob woke up. "God lives here," he exclaimed in terror. "I've stumbled into his home. This is the awesome entrance to heaven." The next morning, he got up very early and set his stone headrest upright as a memorial pillar and poured olive oil over it. He named the place Bethel, the house of God, though the previous name of the nearest village was Luz.
And Jacob vowed this vow to God: "If God will help and protect me on this journey, and give me food and clothes, and will bring me back safely to my father, then I will choose Jehovah as my God, and this memorial pillar shall become a place of worship, and I will give you back a tenth of everything you give me."
Jacob traveled on, finally arriving in the land of the east. He saw in the distance 3 flocks of sheep lying beside a well in an open field, waiting to be watered. But a heavy stone covered the mouth of the well. The custom was that the stone was not removed until all the flocks were there. After watering them, the stone was rolled back over the mouth of the well again. Jacob went over to the shepherds and asked them where they lived.
At Haran, they said.
"Oh, do you know a fellow there named Laban, the son of Nahor?"
"We sure do.
"How is he?"
He's well and prosperous. Look, there comes his daughter Rachel with the sheep."
"Why don't you water the flocks so they can get back to grazing?" Jacob asked. "They will be hungry if you stop so early in the day."
"We don't roll away the stone and begin watering until all the flocks and shepherds are here," they replied.
As this conversation was going on, Rachel arrived with her father's sheep, for she was a shepherdess. And because she was his cousin, the daughter of his mother's brother, and because the sheep were his uncle's, Jacob went over to the well and rolled away the stone and watered his uncle's flock. Then Jacob kissed Rachel and started crying. He explained about being her cousin on her father's side and that he was her aunt Rebecca's son. She quickly ran and told her father Laban, and as soon as he heard of Jacob's arrival, he rushed out to meet him and greeted him warmly and brought him home. Then Jacob told him his story.
Just think, my very own flesh and blood, Laban exclaimed.
After Jacob had been there about a month, Laban said to him one day, "Just because we are relatives is no reason for you to work for me without pay. How much do you want?" Now, Laban had 2 daughters, Leah the older and a younger sister Rachel. Leah had lovely eyes, but Rachel was shapely and in every way a beauty. Well, Jacob was in love with Rachel, so he told her father, "I'll work for you 7 years if you give me Rachel as my wife."
Agreed, Laban replied. I'd rather give her to you than to someone outside the family.
So Jacob spent the next 7 years working to pay for Rachel, but it seemed to him but a few days. He was so much in love. Finally, the time came for him to marry her.
I have fulfilled my contract, Jacob said to Laban. Now give me my wife so I can sleep with her.
So Laban invited all the men of the settlement to celebrate with Jacob at a big party. Afterwards, that night when it was dark, Laban took Leah to Jacob and he slept with her. And Laban gave to Leah a servant girl, Zilpah, to be her maid. But in the morning, it was Leah.
What sort of trick is this? Jacob raged at Laban. I worked for 7 years for Rachel. What do you mean by this trickery?
It's not our custom to marry off a younger daughter ahead of her sister, Laban replied smoothly. Wait until the bridal week is over and you can have Rachel too, as long as you promise to work for me another 7 years.
So Jacob agreed to work 7 more years. Then Laban gave him Rachel too. And Laban gave to Rachel a servant girl, Bilhah, to be her maid. So Jacob slept with Rachel too, and he loved her more than Leah, and stayed and worked the additional 7 years.
But because Jacob was slighting Leah, Jehovah let her have a child, while Rachel was barren. So Leah became pregnant and had a son, Reuben, meaning God has noticed my trouble. For she said, Jehovah has noticed my trouble, now my husband will love me. She soon became pregnant again and had another son and named him Simeon, meaning Jehovah heard. For she said, Jehovah heard that I was unloved and so he has given me another son. Again she became pregnant and had a son and named him Levi, meaning attachment. For she said, surely now my husband will feel affection for me, since I have given him 3 sons. Once again she was pregnant and had a son and named him Judah, meaning praise. For she said, now I will praise Jehovah. And then she stopped having children.
Chapter 30. Rachel, realizing she was barren, became envious of her sister. Give me children or I'll die, she exclaimed to Jacob.
Jacob flew into a rage. Am I God? He flared. He is the one who is responsible for your barrenness.
Then Rachel told him, sleep with my servant girl, Bilhah, and her children will become mine. And her children will be mine. So she gave him Bilhah to be his wife, and he slept with her. And she became pregnant and presented him with a son. Rachel named him Dan, meaning justice. For she said, God has given me justice and heard my plea and given me a son. Then Bilhah, Rachel's servant's girl, became pregnant again and gave Jacob a second son. Rachel named him Naphtali, meaning wrestling. For she said, I am in a fierce contest with my sister and I am winning.
Meanwhile, when Leah realized that she wasn't getting pregnant anymore, she gave her servant girl Zilpah to Jacob to be his wife. And soon Zilpah presented him with a son. Leah named him Gad, meaning my luck has turned.
Then Zilpah produced a second son, and Leah named him Asher, meaning happy. For she said, what joy is mine! The other women would think me blessed indeed.
One day during the wheat harvest, Reuben found some mandrakes growing in a field and brought them to his mother, Leah. Rachel begged Leah to give some of them to her.
But Leah angrily replied, "Wasn't it enough to steal my husband? Now will you steal my son's mandrakes too?"
Rachel said sadly, "He will sleep with you tonight because of the mandrakes."
That evening, as Jacob was coming home from the fields, Leah went out to meet him. "You must sleep with me tonight," she said, "for I am hiring you with some mandrakes my son has found." And so he did. And God answered her prayers, and she became pregnant again and gave birth to her fifth son. She named him Issachar, meaning wages, for she said, "God has repaid me for giving my slave girl to my husband." Then once again she became pregnant with a sixth son. She named him Zebulon, meaning gifts, for she said, "God has given me good gifts for my husband. Now he will honor me, for I have given him 6 sons." Afterwards she gave birth to a daughter and named her Dinah.
Then God remembered Rachel's plight and answered her prayers by giving her a child. For she became pregnant and gave birth to a son. "God has removed the dark slur against my name," she said. And she named him Joseph, meaning, "May I also have another?" For she said, "May Jehovah give me another son."
Soon after the birth of Joseph to Rachel, Jacob said to Laban, "I want to go back home. Let me take my wives and children, for I earned them from you, and be gone. For you know how fully I have paid for them with my service to you."
"Please don't leave me," Laban replied. "For a fortune teller that I consulted told me that the many blessings I've been enjoying are all because of your being here. How much of a race do you need to get you to stay? Whatever it is, I'll pay it."
Jacob replied, "You know how faithfully I have served you through these many years, and now your flocks and herds have grown. For it was little indeed you had before I came, and your wealth has increased enormously. Jehovah has blessed you from everything I do. But now, what about me? When should I provide for my own family?"
"What wages do you want?" Laban asked again.
Jacob replied, "If you will do one thing, I will go back to work for you. Let me go out among your flocks today and remove all the goats that are speckled or spotted and all the black sheep. Give them to me as my wages. Then, if you ever find any white goats or sheep in my flock, you will know that I have stolen them from you."
"All right," Laban replied. "Shall be as you have said."
So that very day, Laban went out and formed a flock for Jacob of all male goats that were ringed and spotted, and females that were speckled and spotted with white patches, and all the black sheep. He gave them to Jacob's son to take them 3 days' distance, and Jacob stayed and cared for Laban's flock. Then Jacob took fresh shoots from poplar, almond, and sycamore trees, and peeled white streaks in them, and placed this rod beside the watering troughs, so that Laban's flocks would see them when they came to drink, for that is when they mated. So the flocks mated before the white streaked rods, and their offspring were streaked and spotted, and Jacob added them to his flock. Then he divided out the ewes from Laban's flock and segregated them from the rams, and let them mate only with Jacob's black rams. Thus he built his flocks from Laban's. Moreover, he watched for the stronger animals to mate, and placed the peeled branches before them, but didn't with the feebler ones. So the less healthy lambs were Laban's, and the stronger ones were Jacob's. As a result, Jacob's flocks increased rapidly, and he became very wealthy, with many servants, camels, and donkeys. This is the word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God.
So let's start from the first chapter, 28. Did anything stand out to you?
Again, right from the start, we begin to see the issue of the importance of marrying right and the intentionality that went into this lineage that God has chosen, beginning with Abraham. Of course, by the time we met Abraham, he was already married, but we'll get to know later on that he married from the family. And then we come to Isaac. Again, he married from the family. And so now that we've come to Jacob, it makes sense for him to marry from the family. Of course, nowadays, if we say marry from the family in the same context in which they've done it, then it will be frowned at. But I say marry from the family from the sense of, now we are part of a bigger family, the family of God. And that's, at least that's the barest minimum in terms of standards for who to marry. Don't go outside of the family. Stay in the family. Stay within the family of God. Do not be unequally yoked with unbelievers. Would be what I took from that chapter.
That's good. What I took from it is similar to yours.
Okay.
But that throughout 28 to 30, Rebecca was not mentioned again.
Yeah, because the story has shifted from where she was with Isaac. Now we are focusing on Jacob, and Jacob is in Padan Aram.
Yes. But she was anxious for him not to marry the Canaanite woman.
Yeah.
Canaanite girls.
Yeah.
So even when Jacob saw Leah or went to Leah, then worked for Rachel,
Yeah.
there was no report back to say, oh, Mom, hey, I found a wife now and stuff. Like she didn't get to share in the news of Jacob marrying from the family. Just piggybacking on what you said. She didn't get to share in the news, or there's no account of her realizing that there's no account of her recorded anywhere in the Bible on how she died, etc. and this. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I mean, I know we're going to go on in the story and see. Yeah, it's quite interesting. Again, we don't know the story that was compressed within these few chapters. Even if it is just to tell and she got pregnant and she gave birth and she got pregnant and she gave birth. Apart from the 7 years of working for Leah to get Leah wrongly, and then another extra 7 years. By the time we look at all that, we might be talking about 20-30 years period within all of these chapters, and to not have Rebecca feature in all those 30 years is quite striking. But again, understandably so, because we're talking of it was a huge journey that Jacob embarked upon to come all the way by himself to this place. It's not like now that you can just get on a plane and fly from point A to point B.
Sure.
So it makes sense, as we're going to see when he is going to go back. It was now like a huge homecoming and something to plan for, with all sorts of uncertainties about what does my brother still think of me and things like that. So yeah, quite an interesting detail that you pointed out.
And I wonder why Esau chose to go marry Ishmael's daughter.
Yeah, there's that
Like
as well.
It's as though he hasn't learned his lesson. There's still that indifference to what has happened to him. He heard what his mom and his dad is saying to Jacob.
Yeah.
Instead of following suit in the advice, he purposefully, that's how it reads to me, chose to do the opposite. But there was no record whether they even noticed it or not. But for someone who's lost so much, what's the point? At that point, what's the point?
I read it in the sense of he was actually trying to please the parents, because
By marrying outside.
Ishmael is still part of the family.
No.
He is part of the family. He's Abraham's son. So I mean that's the thing. Now we are reading it, looking back, and knowing all that we know of Ishmael and what became of his lineage
Dynasty.
and descendants. But as far as he's concerned, that's the closest thing to the family that he could find. Okay, you are not pleased with 2 girls from Canaan. Okay, let me go and get at least something close to what you want. Of course, I perceive that Isaac would also not have really been keen on him marrying from Ishmael's family, but it still doesn't change the fact that Ishmael is part of the family, be that as it may. They buried Abraham together, remember? Isaac and Ishmael.
Yeah.
So there's that.
Okay. Well, chapter 29, what stood out to you?
Yeah, for chapter 29, the craziness of Jacob's love for Rachel. I mean, if there's something called love at first sight, this was it in the biblical context. Because he sees this girl, and the next thing we read is Jacob kissed Rachel and started crying, like with exclamation mark in the Living Bible. I'm like, okay, what's going on here? I know kissing is one of the ways they greet culturally. So, not necessarily a romantic kiss. But be that as it may, we know that it was also very clear, not many verses later, that he was head over heels in love with Rachel and would do anything to marry her. So yeah, the whole love at first sight thing was striking to me.
And I think the part I read that was really striking to me was when the Bible said, for she was a shepherdess. And I thought, yes, go girl.
Because you've watched many of and read many of these kind of novels and all this Texas girl and I don't know.
Go to shepherding, show the lights down.
Remember this Love's Long Journey.
Yes.
Love's Amazing.
I love countryside stories.
Oh gosh.
So
anyways. Yeah, I like the fact. I mean, that struck me too. I was like, okay. I saw it from the perspective of shepherd in the sense of a pastor. And to call her a shepherdess, because I mean, literally in the Yoruba language, a pastor will be translated as a shepherd in the very literal sense of the word. And I'm wondering, is that a nod to the fact that a woman can be a shepherd? Of course, it's not a doctrinal verse or anything, but yeah, there's something there to tease out to say, who says a lady cannot be a shepherd? Anyways.
Just literally doing a man's job in that time.
Yeah.
She came with her father's flock. It's amazing.
Indeed. And chapter 30, the interesting continuation of, and he gave birth to this, and that gave birth to that, and lots of giving birth to. The thing that struck me by the time we got midway into chapter 30, following on from the narrative from 28 or even before, is how, again, it's beginning to look like there's an objectification of women going on here. The whole, I'll work for 7 years and then I can marry her, and then after 7 years it was like, give her to me so that I can sleep with her. Like, what are you talking about? Like, that's the whole point of working for these 7 years. And then who sleeps with someone different and never knows that they are somebody different until the next morning? It's just
gonna keep quiet on that one.
It's just very crazy. But in any case, he must have been so love-starved or whatever. I don't know what word it is, but yeah. Again, that's a cultural thing, I must say, just to bring that balance. This is not to say indeed that women are more like commodities. But for their cultural context, that's sort of like the prevalent portrayal, so to speak. Yeah.
I didn't really like that because I understood. It just occurred to me that that's the culture.
Oh, okay,
and that's what he had to do.
Yeah, sure.
So his earnest statement on give me my wife, let me sleep with her is just his passion. He just wants to get it done. That's it.
Okay.
It wasn't as though the woman is the object, obviously. Yeah.
Okay.
Because he had already said he's in love with her. So it's a mutual. We don't even know if it's mutual. So it might just be one-sided. But she's participating in it rather than him imposing it on her, so to say. That's how it seemed to me. Because he kissed her the first time they met and she didn't object or say anything to that, so.
And that might just be hello, good morning.
It indicates complicity.
No, like, if that's the only way we say hello, good morning. I mean, 1 Peter chapter 5, the last verse, greet you one another with a kiss of charity.
It's nuanced, though. This one wasn't said.
Paul will say many times, greet you one another with a holy kiss.
Holy charity. This one said, he kissed her and started weeping.
Yeah? Because it's so like, I can't believe I finally found someone from my family.
I don't even know why he wept. He could just be tired from his journey.
I think there's also that part of the fact that he's emotional. That kind of comes out ever so slightly from that verse. Like,
is it?
You see someone you haven't seen, but you've heard of them. You know they existed somewhere, and now you get to see them, and you're like, finally, and I can't believe I'm seeing you.
Kola, do you know why? Like, it was repeated twice, I think in chapter 29 or 30, 29, that the shepherd people, before Jacob met Rachel, whilst he got there, they told him almost twice that he can't open the well, the stone. He can't roll over the stone of the well until all the flocks were there.
Yeah.
But when he saw Rachel and kissed and wept, the next thing he did was to roll over the stone.
Yeah, that's the first thing that confirms to us that this is not just, I'm reuniting with my relative. There is a love thing going on here, because that was out of point, except if Rachel was the last of the shepherds that they were waiting for. But it didn't make sense. And they said the only validation he had to do that was because he's, related to Laban and to Rachel, and so what? You still have to wait for the others if that's the tradition and the culture. We wait till all the shepherds are here. And it seemed like when he did that, when he rolled away the stone, it was only the sheep or the flock for Laban, which Rachel brought, that were fed or given water to or whatever. So
And it's interesting, at the start of chapter 29, there was just 3 flocks of sheep lying beside the well, waiting to be watered.
Yeah.
So, Helen, when you say unless Rachel's one was the last, it couldn't just be 4. If they all have to wait, there might be more coming.
Absolutely. It looked like there should have been more.
So it's quite curious why he would just roll over the stone, water his uncle's flock, and then they didn't protest. It could be because of the blessings, initial blessing he has, God gave him about, I will protect you, I will be with you, and things. So maybe that boldness came over him, saying, I'll get this done and get out of here.
And get away with it, you mean?
He gets away with things,
Until when we get to the next couple of chapters and he has to wrestle with God. So that's something to look forward to in day 11.
Do you know why Dinah's name was not interpreted in this version we used? So all the names of the sons, starting from Reuben, we're told what the meaning of their name was, or why, how the mothers would say, hey, God has done this for me, that's why I'm giving this child this name.
Yeah.
But for Dinah, she just said she had a daughter called Dinah, that's all.
Interesting. I didn't spot it until now that you mentioned it. And I was like, okay, that's true. I don't know. Again, I don't know. I mean, it's even very possible that the only reason why she was mentioned here is because we're still going to hear more about her. There's a whole chapter that we're going to get to in the next couple of days that is all about her. And before we get there, maybe the author, traditionally believed to be Moses, gives us a heads up that there is also a female figure in this context, because we've mentioned previously how many of the genealogies we've seen, they just focus on the male characters and not even the female, as though they didn't exist. So it's actually noteworthy that a name was mentioned, and even more noteworthy that a whole chapter was devoted to saying something about
True.
unpleasant stuff though, but yeah.
But at least it was said.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right, it's a good point to draw the curtains on day 10. And we look forward to day 11, where we'll see how the story continues. It's interesting that neither of us made any comment about the funny way that Jacob multiplied his flock with all these very weird principles that didn't make any sense, humanly speaking. But there is also something spiritually to take from there, that you become like what you behold. I mean, he just made a stick with stripes and places it where the flock will go to mate, and when they are mating and looking at a striped stick, they give birth to striped and streaked offspring. It just reads like a story, but there is something there to say what you give your eyesight to. Your eyes is one of the gates, as it were, to your life, really.
True.
And so you want to be careful what you see, especially what you behold. And so as we land it for today, in readiness for tomorrow, we've said quite a few things. We've mentioned the surprising absence of Rebecca in this narrative, in the 3 chapters that we considered today. We've zoomed in on the love story of Jacob. We could even call it love at first sight, and how that brought both blessings and troubles into the realities of his future. We've also kind of spotlighted what happened when he began to anticipate returning back home, but Laban again negotiated for him, and they struck a deal that played out in the favor of Jacob, in a very interesting way. And then we noted the issues around their marriage, the intentionality that went into Jacob marrying from the family vis-a-vis the dismissal or the interesting attitude that Esau has, which would make him go to marry, as it were, from the Ishmael family, in addition to 2 wives. Now he has 3. But before we blame him for having 3, we remember that Jacob ended up having 4 with the wives and the slave girls and the servant girls, which is quite interesting. Anyways, so that's it for today, and there is much more to unpack, so get into it for yourself. Genesis 31 to 33, and we'll see you on day 11 as we continue in the journey.
Thank you.
Until then, just remember,
you're not alone
today.
God bless you.